Good evening, all Jedi Padawans, Jedi Knights, and Jedi Masters. We are the Jedi in Exile. I'm the Norfolk Lion here with its tats, and we have got a great show for you tonight. So we are going to be reviewing the second film of the Skywalker saga. It's Attack of the Clones, Matthew. And I know we've both got, as every Star Wars fan does, we've both got strong opinions on this film. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So Matthew, what's your overall feelings and thoughts on George Lucas's Attack of the Clones?
So, one of the themes that I'm gonna, or the audience might pick up on from me throughout this video is, surprisingly, I'm gonna be quite negative this evening. I defended the Phantom Menace to the hilt. Probably not going to be doing that tonight. I feel like our roles might be switching this evening. Do you know what? For me, this was very much the middle movie of a trilogy, which is that bit slower and a lot of context and story building without necessarily too much happening all the way through. I feel like it's a little bit longer than it needed to be, if I'm honest. But
Can I just get straight into that straight away? Point of rebuttal, Mr. Speaker. Um, you're saying this film is quite slow. This film isn't slower than Phantom Menace,
how dare you?
or do you disagree with
How
that?
dare you?
How the Phantom Menace is like the slowest
No,
Star Wars
no.
movie ever.
Hey, we did our review on that. You leave the Phantom Menace alone. Let's focus on
We
attacking
did
the
do our
clones.
review on that, and you can catch that on our YouTube channel. So by all means, feel free to go and watch that, and then come back to this. And while we're at it, remember to like this video, comment how much of an idiot Matthew is for hating this film, and also subscribe. It'll be down below. But
Um,
anyway, yeah, I don't see this as a slow film. When you actually see what happens throughout this film, I get that it's a middle film of a trilogy. I understand that. But I like it more than Phantom Menace,
no,
and
leave,
I think a lot happens.
leave.
Like you think of the whole Obi-Wan going to Camino, the fight with Jango Fett. You've got the fight at the end with Dooku, the whole clones thing. You see the Battle of Geonosis, the Jedi fighting in the arena. I, I just don't see how this film is slow. You see Anakin and the Tusken Raiders. He goes back to Tatooine. There's some nostalgia there. It gets off to a bang with Padme's decoy being killed. Like there's all the Senate stuff. We get loads more of Jar Jar, which everybody loves.
Oh yeah,
And
yep.
sorry, that was my only moment of jest. Like the Jar Jar stuff, him in robes, just is off-putting completely.
So what I'm gonna say is, here's your challenge. You've got the length of this video to convince me otherwise, whilst we get into the nitty gritty. Now, I will go on record here as saying there is some good stuff that happens in Attack of the Clones. It has its merits. I'm not writing it off as a bad film. I'm just writing it off as not as good as some other Star Wars films.
So yeah, so let's I suppose let's discuss a little bit more detail. So clearly, this is 10 years after the Phantom Menace has ended. So we've gone from Anakin being that kind of 9-year-old whiny little boy to being the 19-year-old whiny little
Whiny little
teenager.
boy, yeah, whiny, whiny kid still.
So, but I actually think him being whiny is actually quite important because it shows the kind of chalk and cheese between him and Obi-Wan. Because remember, Obi-Wan, we kind of left him as like the 19-year-old boy at the end of Phantom Menace, and I think it's quite nice how the dynamic of Anakin and Obi-Wan has changed.
But
And I think Anakin being whiny is actually an important part to show that he's not a normal Jedi. I think
yeah,
that's really important to emphasize that him being whiny, that's not a Jedi like
no.
most Jedi aren't like that, and it very much he's different.
So, kind of picking up on that, let's take a look and let's kind of say Obi-Wan was similar age in the first one. Didn't always agree with Qui-Gon and the way that he did things, but when he questioned it or made it clear that he disagreed, it was in that very kind of charming Obi-Wan way
Yeah,
rather
and you knew that
than
he'd still go along with Qui-Gon.
yeah. Whereas
He ultimately had that line in the sand, that respect to Qui-Gon, his master,
yeah,
that if Qui-Gon decided to do something, Obi-Wan would follow him.
whereas Anakin, I feel very much is that kind of spoiled teenager,
Knows he's
wants his own way. Yeah, and I think the whole, when you dissect it a little bit more, it does. I think that is the fundamental behind it. Is he's been branded as the chosen one. Rules have been bent to allow him into the Jedi Order because they believe he's the chosen one, and that must have an impact on you, and therefore he behaves the way he behaves.
He's always got the spotlight on him, hasn't he?
I just want to take this time to also say, my boy Hayden Christensen got done bad. He got done dirty here, because I think a lot of people put the way that Anakin behaved in this movie down to him being a bad actor, and I really don't think that is the case. I think he portrayed the character the way that it was written and the way that George Lucas wanted him to portray it. That maybe just wasn't the way that fans wanted to see him behave.
Yeah, and can I just say that he did get a lot of hate at the time, but obviously we know that he's coming back for the Kenobi show. People are really hyped for him as an actor to come back and play Anakin Skywalker again. Like, I think that's important. That I think as time has gone on, we've appreciated those films a bit more.
Yeah.
Well, some of us have. But no, I think in all seriousness, I think we've kind of, as we've had time, we realise it's not the actor and that it was stupid. Whereas at the time, you know, Jake Lloyd, and it was his birthday on the 5th of March, on Saturday. So he got a lot of hate and he didn't really deal with it that well. Hayden Christensen's not really gone on to do much else. Sorry, Hayden, I'm sure you've been in other, films, etc., but you haven't really done anything of note. And I think he got a lot of hate from the Star Wars universe for his portrayal, but actually now, moving forward like 20 years, he's actually getting some recognition that it wasn't his fault.
And
I think, to go back, he needed to be whiny to show the difference between him and Obi-Wan, to show that he's a different kind of Jedi, and ultimately to show that because of all that, he will lean more towards the dark side.
And this episode could end up being 40, 50 minutes long if we start getting into Hayden Christensen and all of that kind of stuff. So I am going to leave it there. I've got a lot more to say on that, but let's leave it there. If you guys want to see that, let us know in the comments down below, and I'm sure that we can do like a 20-minute episode on Hayden Christensen and what we're excited for, and our thoughts and theories about the way people reacted, why people reacted the way that they did to his portrayal. But let's actually get into the character and some of the things that we see happen. So, as much as I dislike this movie, it is important to the saga. It's not a complete write-off of a movie, and I wouldn't say to people, oh, if you're going to watch it for the first time, just skip it because it's a bit rubbish and nothing really happens. Like, I fully appreciate that stuff happens. We get a lot of character development from Anakin, to be fair, and we see the real relationship between Anakin and Padme start to develop properly within this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of know from episode 1, we get that feeling that Anakin and Padme have this kind of weird 14-year-old to 9-year-old love thing going on, which is a bit creepy. But Anakin gives her the little wood carving thing he makes, doesn't he? And you can see they've got some kind of connection. And it really is explored, and it's interesting that the first scene we see Anakin is him and Obi-Wan in the lift, and Anakin is like so panicky about meeting her again. She comes across as she's obviously a senator now instead of the Queen of Naboo. She's really mature.
Cool,
she's
calm,
on the Galactic
collected
stage. Yeah, and actually we find out later on in the film that she's not. In the scene that you're watching on YouTube, you can see here where she, speaks about her undying love for Anakin when she thinks she's about to be killed. So
yeah, I mean, she's quite standoffish at the start of the movie with him, in that he makes some comments.
Standoffish, but dressing like very provocatively.
Yeah,
like I can't be with you, but look how good I look.
But she's very kind of. I mean, if you think about that scene where they go up in the lift and they've been assigned to protect her because there's been the attempt on her life and stuff, he makes a comment, doesn't he? And she's like, "Don't say that. Like, don't say things like that. Yeah. Like, I'm not having it." But I do think that a lot of people pass that off as she doesn't feel that way, and then all of a sudden on a coin flip, because this stuff's going on, she suddenly feels this way. And I actually think that if you dig down deeper into it, it's very much a case of, in the confines of the society that she's in, which is that she's a senator, she's high, she's got this high profile, high status role, and he is the chosen one, but also the chosen one within an order that doesn't allow attachments and all of that kind of stuff. That she fully understands that, and she understands that anything that she does to kind of incentivize him to be with her and kind of promote him being with her jeopardizes both his future and her future.
She's very much got a sense of duty, hasn't she? And she realizes that a Jedi is basically all about their sense of duty, duty to the Republic, duty to their own order, and she fully respects that. But it's the classic thing of head versus heart, isn't it? A head saying one thing, a heart saying another.
And I think
my mind's telling me no.
I think in this scene, the reason that it seems like it switches so much is because she's accepted that the normal confines of society do not exist here.
Yeah, it's got nothing to lose. She's about to be executed.
And that's what I was going to say. If you take this out of the context of Star Wars and you put this in any other movie, I think people accept it wholeheartedly, because what they say is that she thinks, I'm about to die. I don't want to die without kind of telling the person that I love them. And that's what this is. Can we also take this opportunity to appreciate the absolute genius that is John Williams? I know that we love him on this channel, and it'll be no secret to anybody watching that we love him. But the Across the Stars theme, which is the love theme for Anakin and Padme that plays here, absolutely chef's kiss of a song. Just the epitome of Star Wars music, how emotive it is and how much it makes you feel things. It's just take a bow, John Williams.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And the last thing I want to say on Anakin, there's one kind of line that I picked up on that Anakin says that really, obviously knowing what we know, for me, is really significant. And it's the line where him and Padme are in the field, they've done their rolling around, they're having their picnic, and they're talking about what they think democracy should be. So Padme says, we need a system where everyone comes together and decides, the right thing to do. And that's what we have, but it doesn't work. And Anakin's like, I think we basically need a good dictator to make decisions for the good of everybody that isn't really challenged. And that's really important, because that, for me, later on, him as Darth Vader, he must believe that what Palpatine is doing
is right.
What he's doing is the right thing and is good for, if you want to call it, the everyday man, the everyday woman, Joe Blogs on the street kind of thing. And that's really important. And this is going to be like a little bit of a side segment, I suppose, but Darth Vader believes what he's doing is right. He believes that the Jedi were wrong. He believes that he got rid of an order that was completely backwards and that was holding the Republic back. And so just that line, for me, knowing what we know, it's so symbolic to me of how Anakin, how his thinking goes, so much different to the Jedi.
I think we need to talk about, before we move on from Anakin, we need to talk about the whole Tusken Raider situation as well. So obviously, really key point in this movie is that we see his first kind of real slip into the dark side, and his slip towards letting emotions cloud his judgment and lead his actions, with the slaughter of the entire village of Tusken Raiders, because essentially his mother dies with them.
We see Qui-Gon's voice.
Yeah.
Because it goes to Yoda and Mace meditating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you hear that, Anakin, no.
Which, that's such a pivotal scene.
Start of the end.
Yeah, it is. It's the beginning of the end of Anakin Skywalker as we kind of know him. And we're, just for those watching, we're recording this straight after having watched the Attack of the Clones trailer and reacted to that. So if you've not seen it, go give it a watch. But there is a particular bit when the title comes up where you hear the Darth Vader breathing, and that was obviously a massive kind of foreshadowing decision by the production crew to kind of hint to us that we were going to see something here that was leading into Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
And also, this film gives us loads of Anakin memes as well, so we need to be thankful for that. The whole "I don't like sand. It's rough. It's coarse. It gets everywhere."
Not the men, but the
You've
women and
got
children.
Yeah, not just the men, the women, and children. Like two iconic Star Wars memes.
If you guys like memes, go make sure that you follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, because we've got original memes coming out on pretty much a daily basis at the moment, courtesy of Brian himself. So be sure to go over there and drop us a like and follow, and make sure that you're not missing out on those.
Disappointed.
You will not be disappointed. So let's roll it on. We've talked about Anakin and Padme quite a bit.
Yeah, the other good thing that comes out of Attack of the Clones, one of the great things, is Obi-Wan's mullet. Very, very much business at the front, party at the back.
Yeah.
It's a completely different Obi-Wan. Let's talk a little bit more seriously now. He's really embraced that kind of master role, that he's got a Padawan and he's the more mature type. I mean, you can clearly tell this is a guy destined for the Jedi Council. He's not that father figure to Anakin. I know we've had this. He's more like a big brother getting annoyed with a little brother. You know, he gives it the whole "this weapon is your life." He's constantly exasperated by Anakin in this film. He's constantly like, oh.
He just seems tired. He just seems tired and sick of it.
Yeah, he's like, fuck's sake, 10 years of this bullshit. Like, he's like, he's on Tatooine. What the blazes is he doing there?
Yeah.
Like, it's yeah, and this Obi-Wan is a lot closer to the Alec Guinness. I feel like Ewan McGregor did a really good job of the Obi-Wan in the first film in Phantom Menace needed to be very much different to Alec Guinness. I mean, that's kind of stating the obvious, but this Attack of the Clones Obi-Wan needed to be almost an Alec Guinness Jr., and I feel like we get that in his mannerisms and how he's talking, and how he's acting.
It kind of, so you've said that there's 10 years between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Obviously, at the point that this film came out, there was no real kind of content bridging that gap. And so they essentially had to find a way of showing 10 years worth of development without showing you 10 years worth of development. And so I think that's really what we get, is we kind of get the older, kind of more mature, more kind of wider thinking, more level-headed Obi-Wan than we definitely got in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, they're very cautious, conservative Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of shown in the whole Dooku fight, which obviously this photo is taken from. That his immediate reaction when they arrive to fight him is, "We'll take him together." It's not the I'm the master. I'm the one here. So like, let me lead and that it's, we'll take him together.
He realizes his limitations. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He realizes that he's not strong enough on his own, and Anakin's not strong enough on his own. Like,
and then Anakin wrecks it because he just goes, just gonna run it.
Yeah, and the whole I like the whole Obi-Wan going to Kamino on his own. I like that whole sequence of him finding out about the clones, Master Cypher Diaz. I also really like his talk with Dooku, where he's been captured. And this might be a good time to move into Dooku as well. Like, I like when Dooku talks to Obi-Wan, and he's like, "What if I told you that the Senate was under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?" And we find out, obviously, that there's a connection between Dooku and Obi-Wan, that although they haven't met, Dooku trained Qui-Gon, and we obviously know Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan, so there's that kind of family tree of Jedi, if you like. And, you know, Dooku says that Qui-Gon maybe would have joined the Separatist movement. And I am somebody, if you take the Sith out of it, I believe Qui-Gon, and I very much believe that Dooku was talking as Count Dooku at this point, not as Darth Tyrannus. And I think Qui-Gon would have been a Separatist.
So...
Because I think he lost faith in the Republic.
So I think he lost faith in the Republic, and I think he would have been open to the ideas. I don't know if he would have gone to the extremes of having a droid army and setting up a confederacy like they do. But I think that he would have supported some of the ideas and some of the ideals. I do.
He'd have gone and spoken it in the Separatist Senate that we see in the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
we see they have their own Senate set up.
I do think that it's interesting that we talked about just briefly, like it's perfect time to just jump back slightly to Obi-Wan. That I truly believe that Phantom Menace Obi-Wan, when Dooku says "join me," Qui-Gon would have joined me, etc. The Phantom Menace Obi-Wan might have been taken in by that a little bit more, whereas this is the more mature Obi-Wan who goes, he's saying that to get a reaction out of me, I'm not going to give him it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can get on board with that.
We get to see that Dooku is this master swordsman. Obviously, he comes up. Yeah, he comes up as this fabled Jedi that left the Order, famously. There's a lot of information on Dooku towards the end of the Plagueis book, which I know technically isn't canon, but I guess a lot of the fundamental concepts of Dooku still stand from that.
Plagueis book is canon.
I don't think it is.
I thought the Plagueis book was canon.
I don't think it is.
I thought that was one of the few that was.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, continue talking.
Brian's gonna.
I like Dooku as because I like how he's Mace Windu
because
everyone thinks that he was behind the assassination attempt on Padme.
Yeah,
and I think is it Ki-Adi-Mundi? No, Ki-Adi-Mundi says he's a political idealist, not a murderer.
Yeah,
and so he's left the Jedi because how the hell can you be a political idealist and leave the Jedi? Because surely the Jedi are political idealists.
No, but they're not supposed to be, are they? They're not supposed to be.
Well,
they're not supposed to get involved in politics, and that's kind of the whole point. Is that they are there as servants of the Republic, and I say that in the way of that they're not the police of the Republic or the army of the Republic, but they are there to support and serve the Republic. And I guess if you fundamentally disagree with the Republic, the way it's running, and you believe it to be a corrupt institution, that's probably why you leave, right? Because what's one person going to do to like an organisation that size?
Can I just say that I stand corrected? Plagueis isn't a canon book, and I'm actually really surprised by that.
I'm gonna sit here smugly for the next however long.
Although there's a lot of references made apparently in the canon book Tarkin, save for Sidious, which is a canon book, so we'll call it 50-50. Anyway, moving back to Attack the Clones swiftly. Another person we're introduced to, and there was big excitement for this, especially in the trailer, was Mace Windu, and Mace Windu, more importantly, with a lightsaber. So there we go. He's standing there with the rest of the Jedi. Those on YouTube can see. We get the. I mean, it's a purple lightsaber. I mean, what more do you need to say? I think it was a big thing that we saw Mace Windu in the Phantom Menace, but we saw him. The only bit of a lightsaber we saw was right at the end when you've got the ball of light, all the Gungans, the Naboo celebration, and he's standing there, and you see a lightsaber. You don't really see anything else of him. But
you
Attack of the Clones is like where Mace Windu comes into his own.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's interesting because, and genuinely, this has only just dawned on me, is that in the Phantom Menace, you see the Jedi Council, and for all intents and purposes, they are a group of people that sit in a room, make a decision, and that's pretty much it. Whereas
missions themselves, they send everybody else.
Whereas when you get the battle on Geonosis, you see Mace Windu get down and dirty in their fighting, you see Yoda get down and dirty in their fighting, and there are other members. Shakti's there in the background of that particular picture. I don't know how well people will be able to see. Yeah, well. But we actually kind of see that the Jedi Council aren't just this sit, make some decisions, and other than that, don't really have to deal with the consequences. They actually are an active part of the Jedi Order.
Yeah, and I really like the what they've done in Attack of the Clones, where lots of Jedi actually die, because otherwise we'd all have this perception of the Jedi as basically cannot be killed. And so of course they're going to beat the droids. Whereas we know from Clone Wars, obviously more Jedi do actually die. And there's the line in Episode One where Anakin says to Qui-Gon, no one can kill a Jedi. And obviously Qui-Gon kind of makes a bit of a joke of it, and he's like, "Oh, if only that were true." Um, and I think it's really important to show in this scene that the droids they're not equal to the Jedi, but if they had greater numbers,
Numbers,
then
yeah.
the Jedi can be killed.
And it shows
That's really important for
it
me.
shows weakness, and that sets up the whole Order 66 piece. I'm reminded of the campaign of the original Battlefront 2 game, where the clones, the narration of the clones is,
First,
if they can be fooled, they can be killed. That set up the whole Order 66 bit. This sets up the whole Order 66 bit. So there's just these little kind of hints that they're maybe not quite, there's all the myths and legends out on the Outer Rim about what they are and how they behave, and they're this kind of like mystical kind of like entity.
Yeah.
And we actually see in action that some of that stuff's maybe been exaggerated a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the clones, they were obviously the film is called Attack of the Clones. We know it's going to lead into the Clone Wars. I mean, clearly they're the forerunners to the stormtroopers, aren't they? But we see just how many clones there are. We see the Palpatine's given emergency powers, which again sets him up to do whatever he wants later on. Jar Jar, stupid Jar Jar, gives him emergency powers, and he says, "My first act is to create a grand army of the Republic." And we know at that point that is the war starting, the Clone Wars. Um, and I mean, I think the clones look better than the stormtroopers. I think looks wise, I think they're
They look more
more
modern.
pleasing.
They look more modern, and this is something that the prequels had to deal with in regards to, because all of the technology and everything was so much better because they were released after the original trilogy.
Yeah,
They look. This is how you would kind of expect them to look afterwards as a natural progression, rather than them looking more basic than the stormtroopers.
yeah.
But again, you have to put that down to technology.
Can we just say, speaking about clones as well, there's the horrible scene, and why no one noticed it, when Obi-Wan's in Kamino looking, he's getting shown around by the Prime Minister and Torn Wee, that you see there's a pan shot of all the clones eating, and you've got Tamora Morrison with a knife and fork, and he's pretending to eat, and there's nothing on his plate. It gets me every time.
If I
I'm
can,
like, no one see that.
if I can find the clip, insert clip here.
Time to grow. Now we can do it in half the time.
I see.
They are totally obedient, taking any order without question. We
Definitely. I mean, it just annoys me. But yeah, and that obviously another big character in Attack of the Clones is Jango Fett. Again, a throwback to the original trilogy with Boba Fett, just slightly different looking, and we actually see Boba Fett. And again, we get more backstory to this, that apart from his pay, which is considerable, Fett demanded only one thing, an unaltered clone. So we know the clones have a sped up growing process so that they don't take a whole lifetime to grow to be an adult. It's sped up quite a bit, and Boba is an unaltered clone. So we realise that that's how Boba came into existence.
Yeah.
So it was just a cool bit. Like I can almost imagine, the meme to insert here is the Leonardo DiCaprio when you see Boba Fett on screen or Jango Fett's
Yes,
armor. Yeah.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I think I watched some behind the scenes stuff, and George basically said that Django came from the fact that Boba Fett was so popular in the original trilogy that they were like, we need another Boba Fett, but that doesn't work. So his dad.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what they did. But it's cool because we get to see the kind of I'm going to say the origins. We don't see the origins, but we see where Boba's armor came from because obviously he inherited Jango's armor and altered it slightly. We also get to see, and I'm going to call it Slave One. Comments section, crucify me, do what you want. But we see Slave One, the iconic Firespray class ship that again Boba inherits, and the absolute beautiful audio that we get from the sonic charges that we've seen. We covered those in the Book of Boba Fett, how much we love those, but I think this was just nice because we did get those kind of those nods and those things that fans of the original trilogy will have gone, oh look, it is Boba's armor, it's Boba's ship, it's all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think as well what's quite good is that obviously in Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi as well, Boba Fett is a bad character. He's a baddie, but it might explain why he seems to work for Darth Vader quite a lot in maybe hating the Jedi because a Jedi literally sliced his dad's head off. But how good was Mace to not affect any of the armor?
Yeah, well,
I mean, sliced the neck off and he saved Boba the entire helmet.
That was like really, he was really courteous there. He just thought, I'm going to kill this kid, but what I need is to make sure that the armor is safe, the armor is fine. But I guess it's also that thing of, technically it's Beskar armor, right?
That's what I was thinking, because if he'd hit him above, there wouldn't be a mark, which kind of begs the question, how the hell did Boba get a dent on his helmet?
Well, it's in a deleted scene from the Clone Wars. Cad Bane gives it to him in a deleted scene from the Clone Wars that was never actually fully brought to production. But obviously that's not canon anymore, so who knows? Interesting question. If you guys know how that happened, let us know down in the comments. We'd love to know. I think we need to talk about a couple of key things. We're obviously looking at a photo from the Battle of Geonosis. Jango gets his head cut off at the Battle of Geonosis. We're introduced to the super battle droid, the B2 super battle droid model here, which is, do you know what somebody pointed out to me and I now cannot unsee? This battle droid is a normal battle droid on steroids, in that it's just a super jacked version because it's got the same head and like this, essentially just like wide shoulders and big chest, and that's it. It's like it's like a battle droid that's been doing upper body at the gym constantly.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that.
But these are pretty cool design. And obviously,
they seem ruthless because one of them smashes another droid out of the way and starts fucking shooting. They just seem a lot more. Well, they just seem better than the fucking Trade Federation.
They seem more intimidating, don't they? But they seem more intimidating. It's the whole the dark grey look to them, the wider, more intimidating, rather than this like skinny. And I think we saw in the Phantom Menace, you know, there's like the bit where like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan literally flick their hands and they knock them absolutely flying with the Force. This was like the natural progression by the design team to go, we need something that has like ramped up in intensity a little bit.
Yeah, and I have to say in this scene, actually, something that they did quite well with the comedy side of it was the whole 3PO head on a battle droid. That was actually, I thought, quite clever. And like the battle droid's head on 3PO's body, where he's like, my legs aren't moving, I must need maintenance. Like, I thought that was funny. I thought some of the comedy in Phantom Menace wasn't that great. It was really crass.
It felt forced, right? Some of the
Whereas in episode 2, that kind of thing, like I can imagine 3PO doing that. That is like the 3PO of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And obviously, it was nice to see how R2-D2 and C-3PO get reunited.
Yeah, definitely. To kind of see that actual proper.
10 years apart.
Yeah,
you know.
but also like the proper. This is where their relationship really begins, right? Like properly, because in Phantom Menace, like 3PO's there, but he's only there for a small amount, and this is where their proper friendship relationship really begins, and kind of spans the length of the movie.
Yeah.
Something that I want to touch on, because I feel like we're kind of now starting to get to a point where we'll start to give some scores and to wrap up kind of our thoughts and feelings. But one thing that I do think is really cool from this, and a lot of people miss it if you're not paying 100% attention to the movie, is the really cool Easter egg that we get, which is we talked in the our Plagueis chat, which is available on YouTube if you want to go watch it, about Palpatine and not so Palpatine, but the kind of the grand plan that the Sith had spanning the Skywalker saga, and this just shows how early all of this stuff has been thought about. So the Death Star that obviously we see the kind of at the very end of Revenge, we see starting to be like to come to fruition and starting to be built, but realistically we see properly in A New Hope, was actually being conceived and thought of so much earlier. And I think a lot of people's assumptions is that it was the aftermath of the war that kind of spawned the concept of the Death Star, but it just shows that this was the plan all along, no matter whether the war had happened or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always wonder, and obviously we're never going to really know, I wonder what the original plan was from Palpatine, like, what was going to happen. Did he think, like, was he just hedging his bets just in case he thought, you know what, the Separatists could actually win this? If the Separatists can build a Death Star that destroys planets, like, the Separatists have a hell of a chance of winning this.
Well, it's really interesting, though, because at this point, and again, the Plagueis novel isn't canon, but the concepts from it, you know, you kind of need to still attribute across. That his plan after meeting Anakin was always to get rid of Dooku. But if the Separatists had won, Dooku would have been there and his position, and I guess if he takes Dooku out, he can very easily step across and step straight in and go, okay, I might have been on the losing side of the war as Palpatine, but now I'm here and I can fill that gap. Yeah, so I don't know what that plan was. It's a really interesting question, actually. Let us know down in the comments what you guys think, whether or not you think that was his plan all along, or, you know, maybe get Dooku to start sabotaging the Confederacy so that they were never gonna actually win the war. Who knows?
I wonder if Dooku was kind of obviously in on that, you know, to say, like, from Dooku's point of view, did he always think the plan was for the Separatists to win? Or that he would be kind of like on the losing side, but obviously the Sith would be gaining control.
Yeah,
like,
so my
I wonder how it was kind of spun with him, because Palpatine always wanted Anakin.
Yeah.
And clearly Palpatine, Sidious isn't going to tell Dooku that. But what is Dooku being told? Is it just a case of, right, well, you know, you're going to be my apprentice when I'm Chancellor still?
My headcanon is that the Separatists were always set up to fail, and that Dooku would have started doing things to ensure that they failed, because Palpatine needed the war as the excuse for the army. He then had the army, and the war was a tool and not the ultimate goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there we have it, guys. Some interesting topics of discussion, and kind of
last thing just to chat, just very quickly. Yoda spinning like a fucking madman.
This is another reason that I love Yoda. Yoda's
Force lightning as well. Yep. I found it ridiculous.
Yes. So this is what I was going to say, and this is why I dislike this movie. It leads on to the conclusion really nicely, mate. You've done it. You've pulled an absolute blinder. So my issue is Yoda was a character that I actually really like. A lot of people find him annoying. I get that, But he's actually a character that I really like, and I have always really liked. This, for me, ruined Yoda a little bit, because he's supposed to be this reserved, calm, kind of, you know, the kind of the older states.
On a walking stick, then fight like that.
Yeah, like that. He's like supposed to be like the older statesman of the Jedi Order. I'm fine with him being able to fight. I've got no issue with him being able to fight, because obviously he would have had to have learned to fight, and he's had an extended life compared to kind of some other species to really perfect lightsaber combat. But the whole just like, oh, we're going to make him spin like a million times and bounce all over the place and all that kind of stuff, just it felt really out of place, and it's quite jarring actually to watch.
It wasn't a proper lightsaber fight, really, was it? It was him jumping and landing and then doing little like kind of barrages, because it looked, and I'm sure it was just the way it was filmed, but it looked really deceiving that Yoda's lightsaber blade was really small compared to Dooku's having a long one. And it's like, well, Dooku surely wins that. But I did like the bit where they like use the Force against each other.
Yeah.
So he like deflects the Force lightning. I thought that was really cool. That because obviously from the original we just see Luke being electrocuted and there was nothing he could do about it.
Yeah.
Whereas Yoda,
he like
powerful
absorbs
enough,
it,
like,
doesn't he?
to hit him.
Yeah.
And then he shoots it back at Dooku, who deflects it to the ceiling. Dooku tries to bring the ceiling down on Yoda. Like,
yeah, because
I like that they have that kind of mind, like two older Jedi.
Yeah, and we get that line, don't we, where Dooku's like, it's clear that this contest will not be decided by our knowledge of the Force, but by our skills with a lightsaber. Yeah, so
he plays it like an absolute dom.
Like, and I totally get that. And I think for me, that brings me nicely onto. I don't hate on this movie, and I was in the Phantom. I've got to be consistent here, right? The Phantom Menace, I said, gets a bad rap because of Jar Jar, and I think that for me, yes, there are other flaws within that movie, but that's what people focus on, and that's what really drags it down, and people really hate on it for. For me, there are so many things in this. I understand it's not Hayden Christensen's fault, but I feel like, yes, it was important to the story to see that Anakin was different and behaved differently as a Jedi, but I feel like the writing on that part, I'm going to criticise George Lucas, I know, blasphemous, but I feel like the writing wasn't strong there. I feel like it was done in such a way that was jarring to fans and that they really didn't enjoy. And one of them, the way that he behaves, I don't think is right, and I feel like it was too much of an extreme for me. That's the first point. The piece with Yoda, incredibly jarring to watch that fight scene, and that was, again, I feel like that was Yoda in the original release of the Phantom Menace. We get Puppet Yoda. They knew that they wanted Yoda to have some kind of action sequence within this movie, so they committed to CGI Yoda, and I think they just went, there's no limitations now, let's make him go like crazy, and it was them really kind of trying to make the most of the technology, and again, maybe getting a little bit carried away with it.
Yeah, I think the thing that's... I'm just thinking forward to like the Yoda-Sidious fight in Episode 3, and that has Yoda kind of spinning, but it's more an actual lightsaber fight.
Yeah, it's toned down, and he doesn't just spin for the sake of spinning. It feels like he's spinning to actually fight him.
In Episode 2, he like jumps on Dooku's ship and then runs around it and then jumps back down. And yeah, I think the Yoda-Sidious fight is a lot better. They obviously learned from the Attack of the Clones one.
Yeah.
So, okay, score out of 10, and then I'll do my bit.
I'm going to go 7.
So you scored Phantom Menace a 9?
Yeah.
I scored Phantom Menace. Did I score a 7 or an 8?
An 8.
Yeah, I changed because I was going to originally rate it a 6, I think, or 7. I went 8. See, if I go 8 on Phantom Menace, I need to go a 10 on Attack of the Clones.
Nah,
because
leave. The podcast series is done.
I
think
get
it's
that
much better.
I think there's a couple of bits in this film that I don't like, i.e. what we've just spoke about with the Yoda fight.
So you can't give it a 10?
I think, no, hold on. I think that Anakin is a bit whiny. Again, I think that's needed. I think it's needed for his arc, for his development, for him falling to the dark side. I think the story in Attack of the Clones is actually really good. I don't think there's anything wrong with the story. I think, yeah, maybe the writing, the lines, some of it could have been better. I, I love it. I'm going to go for a 9. I really like Attack of the Clones. I'm a prequel man, but I really like Attack of the Clones. I think Attack of the Clones sets us up so nicely for Revenge of the Sith
Okay.
and the Clone Wars show.
Yeah.
And that is the right answer.
But the Clone Wars show didn't exist at the time.
No, it didn't. But looking back, it sets us up really nicely, Matthew.
Okay. I will agree to disagree for the sake of not letting this run on for 4 hours worth while I sit here and argue with you. We'll do it off camera. But that's our thoughts, guys. Let us know whether you agree, whether you disagree. What would you give Attack of the Clones out of 10? And whether or not there's any key bits of the story or any key things to the saga that we've missed. There probably are. We're only human. But fingers crossed you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. Feel free to share it out with anybody that you think might also enjoy this type of content. We're up to 3 uploads a week at the moment, and we're going to try and be consistent with 3 uploads a week at the moment to keep bringing you the content. So thank you very much for your continued support. We massively appreciate it, particularly if you've got to the end of this video, because it's going to be above 30 minutes. And thank you. We will see you guys real soon, and we'll see you all in the next one.
May the Force be with you.